Welcome to the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL daily. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. I'm Erin Summers. Despite the Saints defense holding the Bucs to 16 points, the offense just couldn't find the end zone, resulting in a change at quarterback late in the third and a 23-3 loss to the Bucs. A pick six put the Bucs on the board early, leading to a 7-3 halftime score in the Bucs' favor. Defensively in the first half, the Saints held Tampa Bay scoreless. They had a goal line stand to force a turnover on downs. The Bucs had 4 straight opportunities from the 1 yard line and could not get it in. In the first half alone, they had 3 sacks, one a strip sack by Chase Young, where he's able to get the ball loose and recover it for a takeaway. Unfortunately, 4 total turnovers by the offense, a turnover on downs, just 48 rushing yards, and several missed connections kept the offense from finding pay dirt.
The game was pretty simple. Turnovers, number one indicator of games, wins, and losses, and it showed up in our game. And we weren't able to take advantage of those little moments. Every game has moments and opportunities that you can capitalize on, whether it's a sudden change, a turnover, on the opposing team, or a great opportunity in there, and we just weren't able to do it. And so, they took advantage of those opportunities. I thought, we did a lot of good stuff on defense. I thought we put ourselves in a heck of a position. Teams I thought we battled offensively, I felt like we just weren't able to take advantage of some opportunities. I love this group's attitude. I think our group's battling each and every day. And, I think obviously this is a challenging thing that we have had to navigate collectively. But I think, these things, when you get through these storms and to the other side of it, you become a really, really resilient team, really, really resilient individuals. And so, we're going to find a way to get through that.
Head coach Kellen Moore put Tyler Shough in for Spencer Rattler with 3:57 to go in the third, trying to provide a spark. However, Shough didn't have much more success. Rattler ended 15 of 21 for 136 yards, an interception, and a fumble. Shough 17 of 30 for 128 yards and an interception when Anton Winfield pulled the ball out of Chris Olave's hands.
We just got done closing the book on this Tampa Bay game. We'll now begin really starting here soon, our plan of action for LA. And we'll make a decision shortly and, just go down that path just so we can maximize as many reps and opportunities as we can moving forward.
For today's podcast, we bring in Super Bowl champ and Saints legend, Jon Stinchcomb. Jon, thank you so much for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. It's been a minute. I haven't gotten to really chat with you since preseason. Lots of stuff has happened. We are almost halfway through the year now, but how are you?
I'm doing great. It's been a couple months. So lurking in the background, just watching the Saints this season. And like most fans, just hoping for those glimmers of reasons for hope and trying to see how, as we build, obviously this isn't a prime year, not making any runs towards the Lombardi anytime soon, but trying to see those hidden nuggets that you say, I see what's being built right now and the foundation that's being created, and where we can have reasons for optimism towards the future.
Well, let's start with that. What reasons of optimism are you seeing?
Oh, diving right in, aren't we? Well, let's start with the defensive front. I think had one of their best performances of the year. 7 stops on the goal line and demanding a 4th down conversion. That was commendable. Seeing Chase Young get after the quarterback the way he did. Obviously Tampa Bay a little bit depleted in the wide receiver front. Not a lot of healthy bodies for them. I don't care. Don't make excuses. Nobody's making excuses for the Saints of saying, they don't have McCoy and Kendre Miller's out for the year. Nobody cares about that. It's how you perform on a Sunday. And given the opportunity, our defense, I think with the stands that they made in the goal line and the ability to get after the passer in a very capable, not want to say too much about Tampa, giving them their flowers. They don't need any. But seeing Chase Young have an effective day and that defensive front rebound after some other games where stopping the run was a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
I think you see that there is a brighter future of what they're capable of, and you just need a recurring theme. We just need more consistency.
I think what we've talked about a lot, Scott Shanley and myself in post-game shows, is that complementary football aspect of things. It seems like we can't get all phases firing at once. And honestly, it could take just even two for the Saints to get into the win column again. I mean, that's what we saw against the Giants. Those 5 turnovers that the defense created helped move the needle, and the offense was able to move the ball enough and score enough points to get the win. What are you seeing in terms of how this team is coming together under head coach Kellen Moore from maybe what you saw in preseason?
Yeah, I know this, Aaron. It's never as bad as you think it is, and it's never as good as you think it is. And so there's times I'm sure as a fan you're going, "This is brutal. This is brutal," um, and it is. I mean, with the turnovers, and you start stringing together a couple weeks where offensively you're not as productive as you need to be, and you say this is subpar. As a player, as a coach, you go back and you look at the film and you try to say, what did we miss? How can we improve? And I think there's obviously opportunities for that. And what you don't want is for that locker room experience to get really soured, where one side of the football is looking at the other and saying, "You're the anchor that's dragging us down." And uh, when you've got good leadership, and I feel like we've got that in the locker room, you can sustain some blows and some storms. And right now, that's kind of where the Saints find themselves, is in a storm, and can't listen to a lot of outside voices because it's not going to be a pretty picture of what's being painted about you. What you can do is put your nose down and back to the grindstone and work on the things. And I think that is where I see hope, is there is a lot of self-inflicted wounds that the Saints can avoid. I mean, specifically these past 2 weeks, these drive killers that exist, even, if it's slow and methodical and you're moving the ball and you turn it over, that's a killer. And a couple weeks in a row where you look at it and you go, it's not just one player. And Spencer, who do you look at? Who do you blame offensively? You start with the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback. And that's why folks are questioning, stick with Rattler. Is he the guy? In weeks past, man, he has created opportunities for this team that wouldn't have existed if he didn't make the special plays that he made. And candidly, past couple weeks, he's created some turnovers that you would hope that he would avoid. But when you find yourself where the Saints have at this point in the season, you start pressing a little bit. And as a player, you're going, well, what can I control? And there is no perfect player. There is no perfect game that any player has played. And you hope that you're creating synergy. And so offensively, it was another struggle week, and a lot of the players can own that blame and go back to the work week today, saying, how can I get better? What can I do without pressing? And there is a fine line between trying to do too much and you're saying that's and I think some players have crossed that. And then there's the other side of that is, I've got to get better. And offensively, we have to play better football.
Mm-hmm. In terms of head coach Kellen Moore, I'm in the locker room around the players. I don't think that they're questioning him. We're definitely not there. And I think the guys are still fighting for what Coach Moore is asking them to do, believing in what he's asking. And it is a lot, I think, on the players. Because if you look at quarterback Spencer Rattler, yes, some of the decision making is on him, but some of it falls on, and this is what we saw with Tyler Shuck as well, your playmakers that you're getting the ball to making the plays.
Yeah, yes. So, yeah, it's funny how coaches can look great when they have great players in front of them. You're like, oh, well, yeah, I'm a great offensive line coach when I coach Anthony Munoz, and no shade on Mouse, who was his coach, and he is a great coach, all those things. But coaches look better when players are making spectacular plays. If I'm a defensive line coach and I've got one of the Watt brothers, yeah, I'm a great D line coach, right? If I'm coaching Cam Jordan, well, then I'm a pass rush specialist for a decade, all those things. So players are they're a factor. And I think that's what you've seen year in and year out for the best offenses is they've got X factors. For those that play Madden, that it exists in real life where, we've got some good players. Who are the X factors? Who are the ones that can just change the game? And right now, in some of our specialty positions, we've almost impacted the game in a negative way. And, I don't want to single anybody out, but yeah, some plays, including yesterday, that go down as interceptions, that was not on Spencer Rattler when, it's a wrestle for a ball that ends up in Winfield's hands. That's not on Rattler. And I think that's what you look at as a team is, yes, individual players are going to get singled out, but they're not alone. And I think we've seen that throughout the season is everyone needs to bear the brunt of the blame when it comes to this subpar performance, specifically offensively, but certainly we could use this same dialogue in describing the defense. And when you're trying to create consistency, and every NFL team is how can we play at a high level and almost redline our performance week in and week out and play really special football? To be able to do that, it demands that consistency. And right now, that's what's missing most, not just from one player, but across the board, even in protection. And that's not just on the offensive line either, creating the holes. When I watched the film again this morning of yesterday's game, some of the pressure packages, and Tampa brought a number of blitzes. It was part of the pickup was not just on the offensive line. A running back kind of gets caught in the traffic and doesn't see it till late, and it's too late to do anything about. All that to say, Aaron, it's a long-winded explanation of saying everyone's got to bear some of that blame, and we need our marquee players, the guys that we have circled and say we need you to step up. They need to step up, and that is not happening enough right now to win consistently for this team.
You mentioned offense and defense, but I think you could turn the lens at special teams as well at times. We've seen the inconsistency with kicker Blake Groupie, the punting game, Kai Kroger, they made a change there. And you're not often enough flipping the field for your opponent. So there are things that you could point to across the board, which is why you wouldn't feel like the locker room is going to turn on each other, because I think everybody can take a little piece of the looking in the mirror aspect of it and saying, yeah, I could do better too. Looking at your specialty in the offensive line, Kelvin Banks has come in, and we don't talk about him a lot, which is a great thing, right?
Isn't that great? Yeah, he's earned that.
We don't have to worry about that side of things. And you could say the same about Talia Safewaga. Trevor Penning seems like he's been doing really well in his new spot there, left guard. Obviously, having Eric McCoy going down hurts a lot, but Luke Fortner stepped in and did a great job yesterday. I just kind of evaluate that aspect of things right now, because that was something that, man, really killed this team last year.
Yeah. So for the fans, it's never as dark as it seems. And I think you just named, we're talking about offense and defense and special teams. It's little plays. And at the end of the day, you get about 170 opportunities total between offense, defense, special teams, probably a little more than that, a little under 200 plays in a game. And one player making one mistake, not a big deal until it's across the board and we all have these little screw ups, and that's the way the game is played. But at the end of the day, it's how did we end up on the losing side of things? I've played against a lot of bad teams that still have found ways to win, and I played against good teams that find ways to lose. And it's it's one of those deals where the more consistent team is the one that ends up at the end of the game winning, at the end of the season having that winning record. Um, it's not as dark as it seems. And I do think offensively, uh, the fact that Banks has stepped in at left tackle in an offense that otherwise has seen its challenges, the fact that we don't talk about him often is a commendment on his part. Like,
Mhm.
good for Banks, good for Kelvin to step in, and in an offense that has seen its struggles this season, he has been a bright spot, and he's not alone. I think the fact that Fuaga's swung over to right, pinning in his third position here with the Saints, I
Mhm.
think has found a pretty good home at that left guard spot. They're going to get better, and that's another space for optimism for Saints fans as you're looking for, show me some silver lining in these clouds. That those are some highlights, and
Mhm.
I think we have a bright future for some young players in new spots that are uh, taking their lumps along the way a little bit, but overall, reasons for optimism because we've got some talented players that are arrow up, and meaning that they're getting better.
Yeah. And Coach Moore speaks often about wanting it to start inside out and building in the trenches. If that area is, as we're seeing, a bright spot, then I think that you start with that. And if that's what you want to build your offense or your team around, then you are starting in a good spot as Kellen builds what he wants here and gets the pieces that he wants in place to best utilize the scheme that he has in mind. And right now we're in a spot with the quarterback situation where Tyler Shuck comes in third quarter, late in the game, down 17-3, and Coach Moore said, I just wanted to try to, get some different energy on the field and see if we could get a spark in Shuck and making that change. And a lot of the same issues that Spencer Rattler is dealing with, Shuck dealt with as well, and was unable to get into the end zone, although he was close towards the end of the game. Now that you've made that decision to put in Shuck for not just garbage time at the end of a game or a blowout like we saw in Seattle, where do you go from here?
Yeah, I think that it makes sense. You're looking for a spark offensively. We need a spark. We've got to generate something. The most meaningful player on the football field is a quarterback. So can we make a change there and see new life? Can Chuck create opportunities in ways that inspire others and create synergy? And I think that's what, more than anything, you look across the league and there are so many young quarterbacks that have been in positions that they struggled a little bit early. Sam Darnold is a great example of that. Baker Mayfield, we just saw on Sunday,
Yeah.
kind of gave new life to his career. You know what helps those players is the players around them. When they perform at a higher level and the ask and the demand of the quarterback position is lowered, all of a sudden you recognize they're playing better. And it's a huge ask for any quarterback to come in and say, hey, we need new life, and you're the only thing we're going to change. So I think it's a challenge for Spencer Rattler, who I'm a fan, if I'm going to be honest, Aaron. These last 2 weeks, he's struggled some things. You like, you got to hold on to the ball, and the tipped interception pass for pick six right there at the goal line. Golly, can we avoid that? Absolutely. You look at his overall win-loss record and you're like, well, that's not great, but that's not his. I mean, that's the team's with him playing quarterback. So I'm hopeful for Shuck. You want him to not get discouraged, and I hope Spencer doesn't get discouraged. I think they're both young quarterbacks that uh, you want to foster an environment where they can succeed. I don't know that we were able to provide that around Spencer. Obviously, with the win-loss record this season, um, doesn't look great for him, doesn't look good for the guys around him. And so, whoever it is, if it's Shuck moving forward, you hope that the team around whoever the quarterback is, this was my hope after the preseason, you rally around your quarterback, you lift him up, you don't try to put too much on his plate and say, you've got to be the difference maker. because both those guys are young and they're going to make mistakes. If they're not in a position where they can make a mistake or two and the rest of the team can pick them up, it can be a really daunting, devastating task for a young quarterback. And my hope is if it is Shuck, that the players around him can offer him that support where he can find the success that we weren't able to offer Spencer so far this season.
One thing that we said in training camp often about Tyler Shuck is it looked like he was just a little bit behind in his decision making because you are taking a step forward going from college to the NFL. It is faster. You do have to make those decisions quicker. And you could tell that he had the talent. I think yesterday, though, we saw him take a step forward in that regard. I wasn't watching him being like, oh, he was just off, or like, oh, he was scrambling, he was avoiding tackles, he was extending plays, he was trying to connect with the receivers and
Mhm.
make stuff happen. So more playing time for him, getting more reps with the ones definitely will continue to help. We'll see how things pan out this week and which way they go. I know Coach Moore said he was going to make the decision quickly. He said 48 hours, which means, yeah, he wants to get whoever's starting those first team reps at practice, which makes total sense. We saw the Rams, though, in preseason, joint practices. You're familiar with them and what they do well. Give me a quick preview of this game coming up this
Yeah.
weekend.
I think this is arguably one of the best defensive fronts in all of football. So it is going to be a real test for our offensive line. It's every offensive line. You play against the Rams and you're looking at Jared Verse and company going, we better buckle up and we better have a good scheme and good plan in place because they can ruin your day. And it kind of frees up the secondary. It's like, when you play Cleveland, you better have a plan for Myles Garrett because he can ruin your day, and you have to adjust. And I think a similar scenario exists against this defensive front with the Rams. You got to go in with a good plan. It allows the rest of the defense to kind of do some different things that some defenses can't do because they can't just rush forward and expect to impact the quarterback. And it may not just be the stat of sacks, but they can impact your game and still have seven in coverage. And so I think having a good game plan in place, obviously, we just talked about the offensive line. I think that's a solid group, but every solid group goes up against the Rams and say, we need to have a good plan. So it's going to be a challenge just overall on Sunday. But then again, that's the NFL. I mean, that's kind of what you expect week in and week out is you got
Yeah.
to buckle up and understand what you're about to face.
So we're not going to catch them like lethargic off of a bye.
Yeah, you would hope rather than fresh and rejuvenated,
Exactly.
and you get these nightmares that are feeling a little bit better after their dings and bumps and bruises. But uh, yeah, that's the NFL season, right? Where
Yeah.
you've got to forget about Tampa and move on to the Rams. And if it is Shuck, then start to get that game plan that surrounds him, creates those opportunities where he can be successful. And obviously, a big piece of that would be creating some run lanes, not getting down early, where the run game, screen game can be a factor. You saw a number of plays where you're trying to get Taysom Hill some wildcat quarterback runs.
Mhm.
As creative as you can get against a defense that's pretty formidable, is going to be the challenge. And early in the week, that's exactly what they're doing. So today and tomorrow is a big mental day for the coaches to try to get that game plan in place that they can find those weaknesses, if you will, and exploit them against a pretty talented defense.
Yeah. Well, I kept you way longer than I was supposed to, so I appreciate it. I know you do your homework, and I love that. Like you just said you watched film this morning again.
Well, I want to be ready for the show, Aaron. Yeah, I'm a football nerd. I probably watch too much football, uh, but it's fun, and I love the Saints, and I'm just a big glorified fan at this point where I want to see them find the success that everyone wants for them, and understand why we haven't been able to get that quite yet, and figure out the pathways to win some football games. And it's not easy in the NFL, but I think that the key word is consistency and synergy, if I could throw in a second, of, when everyone starts just executing their assignments, you look like you're playing better football, and things are just better, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're not too far off. I mean, there's work to be done, don't get me wrong, but it's the little things. And once you get that in place, you're like, hey, maybe this team is closer than we thought. And I think that's very possible.
Mm-hmm. Are we going to see you soon? Are you coming to a game or what?
I am coming in 3 weeks. I'm coming to the Falcons game before Thanksgiving. I'll be in town, get to see all of Who Dat Nation in person.
Perfect. We look forward to it. And I'm sure we'll pull you into something again that game, that week, or whatever. So get ready to work too.
I appreciate it. It's not work when we're talking Saints. I enjoy it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Thanks, Erin. Have a great day. Who dat?
As always, stay tuned to NewOrleansSaints.com for the latest news. Tuesday is a planned off day of recovery, and the team will hit the field Wednesday as they start their prep for the Rams. Wednesday, I'll sit down with defensive end Chase Young for the Saints Player Podcast that you can also watch on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network at 4 o'clock on Thursday. Chase ended the game Sunday with 1.5 sacks, 1 that strip sack, 2 quarterback hurries, a tackle for a loss, and a pass deflection. It was a banner day for Young, and it makes sense as to why he is our Player Podcast guest this week. Looking forward to that one and the rest of this week as we get ready to head out west to play the Rams on Sunday. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets.